registered dietitian Jennifer Stachler.
I'm Chef James.
And I'm Josh Werner.
We want to welcome you back to our new show, Let's Cook Together, where it's brought to you by Reed Foundation, RPNL, and WCTV. To our cooking show. We are so excited to be back. If you don't all recall, I am Jennifer Stachler. I am a registered dietitian at Reed Health. And I have some new faces with me, and we're going to kind of introduce each other since it's been several years since our last program that we had. I am Jennifer. I am a registered dietitian at Reed Health. I have been a dietitian there for over 10 years. And along with doing a variety of different cooking classes throughout the community, for employees, for these shows, I also meet with patients one-on-one for anything nutrition related for what's called medical nutrition therapy. I also teach diabetes self-management classes, diabetes prevention classes. So I have a lot of different things that I do, and I can't wait to provide fun nutrition as we go through this cooking. And like I said, we have some new faces here with us. So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, and we have Josh here. I'll let him introduce himself and how he came aboard to this program.
Hello, happy to be here. I'm Josh Werner. I'm the catering supervisor for Reed Health and Cafe 1200 Catering. We do all types of events, weddings, internal events at the hospital, and also offices and things like that. So, and then this is James Coon, our executive chef.
Yep. Hi everyone, I'm James. I've been here at Reed for a little over 2 years now. I'm a transplant from Florida, believe it or not. So I'm happy to be here and look forward to doing some cooking with you.
Yes. So we have a lot of fun things to share. We're going to be coming to you each month with some new recipes and ideas, and we're going to start this month with it being more colder outside.
Yep.
We're going to start with some different types of soups. So we have two soups that we're going to share today. And one is going to be a lentil tomato soup,
right,
and one is going to be a minestrone soup. So we're going to start in with the lentil soup, and so we'll kind of get started with, and as they kind of get into the cooking, I'll start picking up some nutrition things here.
All right, fantastic.
Sounds great. Let's get started.
Recipes we're going to be doing, each can be done within 30 minutes or less, which is something I enjoy to do because I don't like most of us, we're all busy. We don't have a lot of time.
No, we don't.
And we want to be able to cook more into the kitchen. So hopefully you'll find these easy and simple to kind of follow along with.
Right. All right, so we're going to start with, we're going to add some onion, about a cup of chopped onion right there. And then we're going to have about a cup of diced carrots. And the same on diced celery. Okay? So to that we're going to add some fresh chopped garlic. But so first I'm going to show everybody how the best way to peel and chop some garlic is. So we start with the whole clove of garlic, and I definitely recommend that you always use a fresh garlic as opposed to the diced stuff that you can find in the jar. Which just doesn't have a lot of fragrance to it. It doesn't carry throughout your recipes and create that nice garlic flavor that you always want to have, okay? So we'll start with the whole clove of garlic, a whole bulb of garlic actually. So the best way to do that is just to kind of press on it a little bit, and you'll hear it start to crack apart. And then these cloves just kind of pop right out for you like that. So we're just going to do a couple. I have some already chopped here, but we're just going to show you and demonstrate. The best way to do that is once you get a clove out, you're just going to take the flat of a knife and lay it on it. Make sure that you're being safety with it, and just kind of press down a little bit on it, and you hear it pop and crack open, and then the skin just peels right off. That's the magic of it. It kind of peels itself. So once you have that, the best way to do it then is just to mash it a little bit more, nice and flat. And then it separates all of the fibrous materials there. And then keep the tip of the knife on the board and just chop it finely like this until you get it to the size that you want. Some recipes you'll want the garlic to be a little thicker. Some of them you'll want to be a little thinner. Depends on what your private tastes are or your likes.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. I love garlic, so I always tend to add more.
So we'll go that right in. And then the recipe calls for 3 cloves, so we'll just add the other 2 right in there. Okay, so we're all set with that.
Extra garlic is
Yeah.
always great. So.
I find a lot of individuals I work with one-on-one are scared to buy the whole garlic clove. It's like they're scared they don't know what to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they think, oh, I'm just gonna grab the jar, it's nice and easy.
It's a convenience factor.
It is a convenience factor too. But I keep my garlic, I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but I have a window in my kitchen and it sits right on my windowsill.
Yep.
So I'm like, I'm always grabbing it right there if I need it.
Exactly, yeah. So we're just gonna add about a half a cup of water to this, just to give it a little start in the cooking process, just to give it a little steam. So we're just gonna try to soften these up a little bit. And you don't wanna cook this too hot, so we're just gonna keep it on like medium to maybe medium-high heat at the most, all right? And you're just gonna kind of wanna cook that for about 10 minutes or so, just to get it softened a little bit and get that cooking process started and get all those flavors to start marrying and coming out and getting fragrant.
So you don't have to just use the water. You can use some of the stock that
Yeah,
is
that's
gonna
what we
come up
talked about as well.
in the recipe later. So just kind of give it a little extra of flavor there.
We could also put a little oil in there as well if you
You
wanted to
could,
get
yeah.
some like olive oil, avocado oil. Those are some of my favorite ones because
Yep.
they're high in those mono and polyunsaturated fats, which are really good healthy fats for heart disease, diabetes. I mean, you name well, for anybody.
And a lot of people are using coconut oil and things like that now too. So
They do. And one unfortunate thing about coconut oil is it's naturally high in saturated fats. So we can see that play a factor in elevating cholesterol levels. I love coconut oil. I love coconut in general. We just have to watch how much and how often.
absolutely.
Right. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and add the Brussels sprouts in now. These are quartered Brussels sprouts. So I wanted to just demonstrate again how we like to do that. So when you get fresh Brussels sprouts in the store, and especially this time of year, they're fantastic. They're fresh right out of the farm, and they're just fantastic. They're firm and fragrant. So we just want to take and go ahead and just cut the stem off and get rid of that. And then it's always good to just get a flat surface so that it doesn't move. And then you can go ahead and quarter them after that, and then they can go right into the soup.
So I love Brussels sprouts, but I feel like back in the day they always got a bad rep
Oh, yeah.
because
They do.
you know the moms always boiled it in water, made the whole house smell kind of
Absolutely.
thing. But I feel like they're making a comeback over the last several years. People are using them a lot more, and they're an excellent source of nutrition. So they're kind of like mini cabbages,
Right.
similar in taste, but a little bit more mild.
Yeah.
Depending on cooking, you could add a bitterness into it, if I'm correct with that saying, but excellent source of nutrition. So one thing I like about this is you get a lot of good different vitamins and minerals, specifically things like folate, magnesium, but also other phytonutrients with it, which is helpful for heart disease, obesity, cancer, inflammation markers. So Brussels sprouts are part of the cruciferous family, which includes kale and broccoli and cauliflower, and these are packed full of, again, those nutrients, those phytochemicals, those phytonutrients that are needed each and every day. So we would like to try to get these as often as we can. So getting used to working with Brussels sprouts, which is very versatile. You can do so many things with Brussels
Yes.
sprouts. I know in past cooking classes over the years we've made pizza, we put them in salads, I mean, so many different things. So try it. It is something, a nice thing I like about this recipe is you don't get that strong Brussels sprout flavor if you're
Right.
afraid of that. It's going to be more mild along with all the other flavors that are going to be in this.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
What's great about the Brussels sprout too is you can roast it, you can boil it, you can grill it. There's so many different ways and variations that you can do it, and sautéed and things like that. as
Yeah.
well, so.
Speaking of roasting, that is actually my favorite way to make
Mine as
Brussels
well.
sprouts because to me it makes them more or less bitter and a little bit more sweet,
Yeah.
I guess, when you're roasting.
Right.
So you have to try it. Easy sheet pans, put it on sheet pan, little oil, other vegetables.
Yep.
Easy
Just
clean
let
up.
it go in the oven
Absolutely.
and call it a day, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this has been cooking for about 10 minutes now. All the flavors are starting to marry, and if you could smell it, you would know. It smells so delicious. So then we're gonna go ahead and add some spice into this. So we're gonna add a teaspoon of cumin, ground cumin, and then we have a teaspoon each of red crushed pepper, chili powder, and black pepper as well. And then we're gonna have some ground coriander and some paprika also.
These are some of my personal favorite spices.
Yes.
Cumin is one of my
Yes,
favorites.
I love it because it's so earthy.
Yeah.
And I always add extra. Every time I have a cumin recipe, I always add extra of it.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
And the cumin and the coriander are made for each other, so they just blend and they marry together, and they have wonderful flavors that come out.
And the smells already are
Yes.
Oh,
outstanding.
yeah. If you could all be in here, it smells delicious.
Yes. Right, so then at this point, we're just going to go ahead and add the red lentils in.
So lentils, this is one that many individuals
Yes.
don't use a lot of.
Right.
And is that something, are you letting those cook a little bit? Or
Yeah, I'm going to let these go in here just to sort of soak in a little bit of that vegetable stock that's already in there, and those natural flavors from the garlic and the seasonings and things like that. So we're going to let that go just for another minute, and then we're going to add the stock in there at last and the tomatoes.
Yeah, just kind of toast them off a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay, well, so there's several different types of lentils that are out there. So we're using more of a red lentil, which gets softer, I think, and they can use it because it's going to get soft. I know sometimes it can get more like puree form with
Right.
this one.
Yeah.
But there's also other types of lentils available as well. There's brown lentils, green lentils, and black lentils, and
Yeah.
they all work a little bit differently.
Right.
But overall, one thing I personally like as a dietitian, there's no meat in this recipe that we're actually working with. Where we're going to be getting our protein source is actually those lentils, which are an excellent source of protein. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with meat. I like meat just like animal proteins, just like anybody else would. But if you're someone who follows like vegan or vegetarian and you're wanting to replace that, lentils is the key.
Yep.
For half a cup, we're looking at 12 grams of protein, which is pretty significant for a plant.
That is.
And we're actually, the other favorite thing I like about lentils, packed full of fiber. And a half a cup has 9 grams of fiber. And you're going to probably hear me talk more about fiber than ever before from our past cooking classes, just because we're having so much more benefit. We're learning so much about what fiber does for us. The average American should be, I shouldn't say just American, the average adult should be getting 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. I will say most of us probably get around 12 to 15. So we're not even meeting half of our fiber needs. So this is one thing I like about this recipe with the lentils, with the Brussels sprouts, with all the other vegetables. We're going to be talking about kale here in a little bit. We are pack-filling this recipe full of fiber, and we'll talk a little bit later about, again, more of those benefits.
And this recipe is 100% vegetarian as well, because we are using a vegetable stock with it.
Wonderful.
And so, you know, it is definitely geared towards a vegetarian and vegan lifestyle.
Right. So at this point then, we're going to go ahead and add our vegetable stock, which, you know, vegetable stock is something that as you cook in your kitchen, you can always make your own vegetable stock and you can freeze it.
Oh, I love
very,
that
very
idea.
Because it's one of the things, you know, you have the ends from a zucchini if you're cutting them, or onion skins, or any of those things that you have in your kitchen when you're cooking. Save all those things, just throw them in a pot, put some water in there, maybe a bay leaf and a sprig of thyme, or any kind of seasonings that you like, and just let it cook for a little bit. Strain it off, put it in some plastic deli cups like this, and pop it in your freezer. And you'll have it for whenever you're ready to make some soups or things like that in the future.
I love that idea, Chef, because it just less waste in the kitchen.
Exactly.
And
utilize everything.
I mean, especially right now with the price of food and cost of food,
Yes.
why
Use
not
every
make
little
something,
bit.
use every part of it, make something you have, and you have it on hand, so you don't have to run to the store to get something. It's already right there in the freezer.
Yeah, a quart of veggie stock's costing you $3.50, $3.99.
Exactly,
So
you
if
can
you can
make
make
it
it all
yourself.
yourself with extras, you're saving money.
That is very little, like pennies worth after all this,
Yep.
after all the scraps that you
Right.
use.
So then we're going to go ahead and add to that two small cans of chopped tomatoes with the juice.
Yep.
And that's something when we're looking at canned vegetables, I tend to always look for lower sodium for the fact
Right.
that most of
Yeah.
us get a lot of sodium in our diets. Not to say that sodium's not great to put into our foods at times. We do need salt. But I do tend to look for lower sodium. The recommendation for an average adult is about 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. We're averaging more like 3,500 milligrams a day. So trying to find lower sodium options with this is very low sodium. The whole recipe is just another kind of extra thing you can do to kind of from a health benefit.
Yeah, and like you said, this recipe does limit salt quite a bit
Yeah.
on both the stock and on the tomatoes.
And we're not even adding in extra
No
salt.
added
We're
salt,
using
no.
all those seasonings.
Any of the flavors that come out of here are just naturally occurring.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing because it's just from the earth.
So at this point, we have most of the ingredients in this recipe. The last ingredient we are going to be adding is going to be kale, but we're not going to do that until this has sat and simmered for about 20 to 25 minutes. So while this is simmering, we're going to kind of clean up, put this away, and we have another soup recipe to share with you. to our next soup recipe, which is a minestrone soup, which is a very common soup that I feel like many individuals make. There's lots of varieties to make it.
Right.
This particular one actually came from the National Kidney Foundation, which is kidney.org. Again, I'm a dietitian. I work with many patients one-on-one, and I was working with some individuals who came in for their kidney health, wanted some soups for this winter, found these soups, they tried them, and they came back just loving this recipe. So I figured, why not share with everyone else? Because not only this is great for kidney health, but also heart health, and just, you know, in case you enjoy minestrone soup, I make this at home as well for my family.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of get started here with the first couple steps.
Alrighty.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with our olive oil. We're just going to get that in there, get that nice and hot. And then we're going to add our garlic. And we're just going to let this garlic kind of saute for just a few seconds here. Really let those flavors come out. Just kind of get that nice aromatics to it. Don't want to get it too brown. And then we're going to add our mirepoix mix. So our mirepoix mix is going to be our onions, our celery, our diced carrots here. Then we're going to have to add some zucchini. And these are going to be frozen green beans. You can use both fresh green beans and also canned green beans.
Yep.
If you're going to use the canned green beans, definitely wash them beforehand.
Yep, I always recommend rinsing them out a lot of times when they're canned. And again, choosing something that would be lower in sodium, because you can't find some green beans that are just canned and they're packed full of salt. So.
Yep. For sure.
So we're just going to let that saute there, kind of all come together really nice and get friendly with each other.
Excellent. So while Josh has that sauteing there for the minestrone soup, I was going to demonstrate how the best way to cut a zucchini. So for this application, it's a small dice. So the best way to do that is to just go ahead and we take the end off the zucchini. And again, we save these because it's great in that vegetable stock that we talked about earlier. Any of your vegetable scraps, tomato ends, onion skins, any of those things are great for that. I always like to get it into reasonable working shapes. So you want to kind of cut it in half. And then when you start to cut the slices off of it, always roll it over so that you have a nice flat surface. So you definitely don't want to get a finger cut. And then that way it stays in place for you to go ahead and make some slices here. And then you can go the other way. And you know, these slices, the thickness and depends on how big you want your dice. So if you want them a little larger, then you cut them a little bit bigger. So for this case, we're doing about a 1/4 inch dice. And then you just turn them around, get them all lined up, and then just cut them back this way, and you have a nice 1/4 inch dice. Very simple.
And one thing you always want to remember, you always want to have a nice sharp knife. One of the most dangerous things in the kitchen is having a dull knife. You really
We're just going to go ahead and put those right in.
Yeah, you really want that blade to do all the work for you. And so having a dull blade, typically you're pressing more and it leads to cuts in the kitchen. So
more likely for that. And also, isn't the size of zucchini going to be important in this too? Because I mean, many individuals have zucchini in their gardens, you know, in the summertime, and
2 foot long,
and they're huge. And what's in the middle? A bunch of seeds.
Exactly.
So sometimes for these types of recipes, using those smaller size zucchinis, so you have less of the seeds, is definitely going to be a lot helpful and just nicer to work with in a soup. Keep those other ones for the baking.
All right.
Do you want to go ahead and get your spices in there?
Absolutely. So we can add our, let's see, we had pepper and some little Italian seasoning there.
And then you have thyme.
And we got just some nice dried thyme. You can use fresh thyme as well. So what we're going to do next, we're going to go ahead and add our tomatoes and our chicken stock. This is also a low sodium chicken stock. So again, being conscious of that sodium level. So we're going to add that all in there.
And again, you can go back if you want more vegetarian or vegan style, you can go back and use the vegetable stock versus the chicken
very
stock.
much so.
Either one is going to be okay for this recipe.
Yep, because again, we're not doing any type of meat in here. This is all veggies. All right, so we're just gonna let that kind of come up to a simmer and come to a boil. And then once it comes to a boil, we'll go ahead and add our pasta in. You don't want to add your pasta too soon or else it really starts to get mush and it's just not nearly as good. So what we can do right now while this is coming to a simmer, we can go ahead and go back to our lentil soup. It should be about ready for our kale.
Wonderful. And again, one of a very favorite kind of vegetable of mine is kale. Again, something I feel like many individuals are a little nervous about using kale.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and add this in. That looks great.
That looks delicious and all the color in there, and I love that we're adding the green in there as well.
Yeah.
I also wanted to just go through again the best way to stem and dice the kale and chop it. The best way really when you have fresh kale, first of all you want to make sure you wash it really good because kale is one of those that has a tendency to be sandy.
Yep, it does.
So you definitely want to make sure that you have all the sand out of it. And the best way to do it is just kind of fold it in half and then just pull the stem away. It's the easiest way to do it, then you're just left with the green.
Yeah, and if you are doing things like collard greens, things like that, if you're down in the south, you're going to do collard greens much the same way. You're just going to kind of peel them off the stem.
Yep.
So kind of keep that in mind as
They
well.
kind of naturally separate. Like I said, the stem just comes right off, just like that. And then the best way to do it, what I like to do is just kind of ball it up into a nice little ball. And then that way it's all together and safe, and you can just chop it. And there you go, all ready to go. Then you can just put it right in your soup.
Yep, that looks fantastic.
That does. There's also, I was kind of reading up a little bit more on kale for more of not just the nutrition side of things, but there's 50 different types of kales out there.
Really? I did not know there were that many.
But there's only like 4 or 5 that are very common in the U.S. And I guess, is it the curly kale that's the most common?
Right.
Yep. Is that something we're using, or do
Yeah,
you
this
know?
is the curly green kale.
Okay.
So this is the most common variety that you'll find in any of the stores around, like, you know, Meijer or Walmart or any of those places.
Yeah.
So you'll find it there, save a lot.
Absolutely, and don't be afraid to, you know, utilize this type of green leafy vegetable. Really, again, a great source of lots of different nutrients, but what I like, it's low in fat, low in sodium, high in fiber. And the other thing I really like about soups, unlike other types of grains, this isn't going to break down and get slimy.
Right.
It keeps
Right.
its shape. It's going to
Right.
be nice texture within
Yeah.
this soup.
Right.
And you can let the soup kind of go a little bit longer on the heat once you add your kale, if you want to kind of let it wilt down a little bit more. But what we did here, we shut the temperature off and we just kind of let that naturally wilt down to us, and
Right.
it'll give us still a nice little bite to it.
Oh, I like
Right.
that.
And lentil soup is one of those soups that it's actually better the next day. So when you make this kind of soup with beans or lentils or any of those, then you put it in containers and put it in your fridge. It's going to naturally thicken over the next day or so.
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of those soups that even gets more hearty as you go
Oh,
on.
I love that too. So it makes a great, you know, easy lunch for the next day.
Yeah,
Pack it up.
Exactly.
Versus having to go out and get something.
Right.
All right, so our minestrone soup is starting to really come to a nice boil here, so we are about ready. We can go ahead and add this. This is ditalini pasta. You can add any type of pasta. This is more traditional, so it's just a really nice round pasta. So we're just gonna mix that in there and just let that kind of come to an al dente. It's not gonna take too long, you know, 3-4 minutes is all it's really gonna take before that's ready.
And then, yeah, we have both of these recipes completed at this time. We'll let them cook off a little bit more, kind of clean up, and come back and try them. Soups are done and completed, and man, do they look delicious. They look so colorful, they smell great. So
They do.
We're gonna kind of try them here. So we'll start with this kale one, the lentil soup here. It is just
Can't wait.
vibrant color
Absolutely.
here.
Here we go.
Thank you, sir.
So we let this simmer again, more for those lentils in there to get
Yeah.
soft.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
it just looks gorgeous with that kale and the bright green.
It's great.
What I tasted right away were all those spices.
Yeah.
And I love cumin and the paprika and the coriander in it. It's one of my favorite kind of mixes when we're coming into soup
Right.
here.
Yep. It's right up front. And you know, it's not overpowering with the Brussels sprouts. And you know, like we said, Brussels sprouts have such a bad rap, but you know, they just kind of really
Yeah.
flow in with the flavor of everything.
Yeah.
You know, and with that cumin, it's almost a little bit smoky. It's really good.
Yeah.
Really nice broth.
Yeah, I enjoy this.
Definitely
and
warm me up.
Oh yeah, good hearty winter kind of soup
Absolutely.
here. And again, if you're kind of afraid of those Brussels sprouts, thinking back in the day when they were just boiled, trust me, this is not going to taste like that at all.
Not at all.
Delicious.
And then we've got our minestrone soup here, guys. There we are. Thank you, sir.
So again, another vibrant color here that we're seeing, packed full of vegetables. And again, both of these have no animal proteins in them. Not that you can easily add some animal protein if you wanted.
Right.
So it works on a variety of different things. One of the best things I like nutritionally about that is with animal proteins, you're getting extra cholesterol and saturated fats. Heart disease, leading cause of death, unfortunately, in the United States. So decreasing those saturated fats, having soups like this on occasion, doesn't have to be all the time, can help decrease those saturated fat intakes, decreasing or minimizing that risk for heart disease.
Right.
But don't be afraid that if you do want some meat in here, like chicken would work good in this, or
Absolutely.
adding something,
Yep.
go ahead and do that as well. But we'll get to trying here.
Yep.
Very, very good as well.
Very vibrant.
And it's
Fresh
light.
and clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's light.
Right?
I like that.
Yep.
It's not a heavy soup. So again, I think of like an easy lunch meal where you don't want a lot, you don't want to be hearty, because again, otherwise at 2, 3 o'clock you're going to be tired because your body's working hard on digesting that meal. Where this
Definitely.
is light and hearty, makes you feel good, makes it feel, clean, like, hey, this is good for me, but it tastes good too.
Exactly.
And that ditalini's cooked just perfect. You know, you get a
It
nice
is.
little tug to it. Nice mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Very good.
Great source of veggies. So I hope you all enjoyed this recipe and hopefully follow along and be able to do these recipes at home as well, and enjoy.